Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lockbeard Phenomena number 19. Why so cold? It's November 20th, 2021. How's everybody doing? Mr. Lee, I see you're here. Mark Dodman, working on a kayak, huh? I'm over listening rather than contributing to chat. Hope you are well, Lockbeard. Yeah, I'm all right. Mark Dodman. Catch me something, he says. The Bat Mom's here. Oh, shaving off his beard, gets cold with no hair. Yeah, man. Mr. Lee shave off his beard. That's no good, man. Sandra Piper's here. Welcome. Uncle Bones. Yeah. Well, been focusing a lot on Bigfoot last few weeks and thought we should look at something else. There's plenty to talk about Bigfoot, but there's a lot more strange stuff going on in the universe than Bigfoot. Bigfoot's really just a very small thing. And so I thought we would talk about what the hell you are, what is a ghost really, and nobody's going to really understand anyway after it. So, well, maybe it will. I don't know. B. Lynn's here. Welcome. Yep. So look at Mr. Lee here. Prime example. Did you know that you are not actually Mr. Lee? That's not actually B. That's not actually Uncle Bones. I'm not really Lockbeard. Yeah. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to consider. Jen, welcome. You know, so like many of you, in my early life, I was taught we have a soul. And then later on, I trying to reconcile that with mainstream science, what they tell us about how things are, the atheistic end of things. You know, you can't really reconcile their science with the soul because one's magic and one's not, right? So went through many years of pretty much rejecting the soul. And, you know, anything ghost was just a somebody, people just seeing stuff, or, you know, like in a lot of these photos you see, which some of them predate CGI and stuff like that, haven't been debunked or proven fake in any way, showing these images that shouldn't be there. People standing there, translucent. They shouldn't be there. You know, there's no. You can't really explain it. I mean, you can only say, well, just because they haven't proven it's a double, you know, negative or whatever they call it in photography. Just because they haven't proven doesn't mean it isn't, kind of thing. It's like they're, you know, just because we haven't explained these pictures doesn't mean there isn't an explanation for it that makes some kind of logical sense. But as my understanding of science started taking some turns, because if you study any of the sciences, you go to college, they give you a degree plan, and you kind of, you take some basics in a variety of subjects, but you end up focusing on something specific. You specialize. And while this is good when you need specialists to handle certain things, I think it also puts blinders on you, like a horse, with the deals on there, so they don't see. You just see, you have this tunnel vision. You're looking at the world through a peephole, which is why I think the majority of scientists out there have been, to use the term from our friend Nikki, hoodwinked by the ludicrous nonsense of man-made global warming. Which everyone that knows I have an environmental management degree are going to, some of you may be surprised to hear me say that, but some of you have already heard me say that. But I, on the other hand, couldn't make up my mind what field to go into, and never got a degree plan. Till the very end, and then I made my own degree plan, and then they signed off on it. Which, making your own degree plan isn't. I don't know why any student needs anyone to help them with their degree plan. It's all outlined in the course manual. But before I got to that point, I spent a lot of years studying a wide variety of subjects, and I think it prevented me from being too focused on anything in particular, so that I maintained a broad perspective on the sciences in particular, although I studied other stuff, some business, some psychology, and so on. I think that helped me to see there are certain areas of science that have some issues. And when it comes to this whole spiritual matter, I don't like the term because it carries a lot of connotation. Everybody has a certain idea of what that means, and I don't have a better term for it necessarily. Science fails to really deal with this appropriately, and science is failing to explain how the universe functions correctly. I mean, when you're talking about something like zoology or geology and stuff like that, they're not really dealing with the fundamental what the universe is, or they're dealing with kind of specifics in the system. But when you're talking about quantum physics, boy, I eventually come to understand. You don't listen to quantum physicists. They've really screwed the pooch. Their interpretations are off. Plenty of perfectly good observations, but their interpretations are off. And you're probably thinking, what the fuck does this have to do with ghosts? Mr. Lee says, do you know about ghost Lockbeard? I haven't gone hunting for ghosts. I don't think I've actually perceived one myself. At least I'm not sure that I have. I know plenty of people that have. They've seen some very interesting things that cannot be explained in any other way than they are a ghost, for lack of a better term. Again, that's another word, has a lot of connotation, but it's good enough. Ghost. So, but I'm going to read some stuff to you that will explain. Well, it might you're going to have to bear with some of the terminology, and the fact is this guy throws a lot of words and puts a lot of stuff into his writing that I would filter out. I'm going to have to do a little bit of Steve Ishtal for you guys tonight. I haven't edited this. I'm going to try and edit it, some of it as I read it, because it's just full of a bunch of crap that you don't need. You just need, there's certain things. It's not what I would call pithy, although it is only a few pages long. It has the information you need to kind of, at least a starting point for you to know what a ghost is, and then why, which it's not a big complicated thing, why ghosts create temperature differentials. People experience this cold, they can actually measure it, why that happens. It's not what paranormal investigators think, the people who call themselves paranormal investigators. It's not their typical explanation. They're way the fuck off. Let's see here. I better catch up in some chat. There's Michael Haywood. Can't blame the paranormal investigators for being way the hell off. They don't know a science of what the soul actually is. They're operating off a very basic understanding of current mainstream scientific explanations that are just nonsense, and usually just completely reject the idea of a soul entirely. So they have no science to go off of to explain the temperature issue. Mr. Lee says there are no coincidences. You know that, yeah. Maybe. Batman says science doesn't touch that. I was taught we are our soul. Soul doesn't leave your body. When you die, so does your soul. People said that was a weight difference when the person dies. People saying, yeah. Well, they were off a little bit there. That one says the soul left the body. It's actually the air. Anyway, yeah. They're giving weight to something that can't. They were trying to say that. Look, these were probably people who were trying to prove there was a soul with science, but to say that a soul has weight is so utterly ridiculous that I can't even process that. Right? And again, soul is another word that has a lot of connotation. You're kind of gonna have to try and forget the connotation, or what you've been told, or what your understanding of what a soul is supposed to be, and if you're going to remotely. Yeah. That mom says why can't we have global rainbows and cake problem, or world peace and happiness? Yeah. Well, it's never going to happen. You can't have world peace. Everybody can't be happy. I mean, I guess everybody could be happy if you put them on an IV drip of THC and gave them all frontal lobotomy. Yeah, everybody's going to be happy forever then, but then the human race will go extinct. The human race evolved. And, there's always got to be competition. And that's what our war is, our fighting is. No matter what we do, we will always find excuses to fight. Because it's in our nature. We have to do it. If we don't, we become ignorant. We would just become straight up stupid. Totally different thing than ignorance. We would become stupid and weak, and we would go extinct. I mean, every buck has got to, ram his head into another one. They grow horns every year for a reason. No interspecies competition means your species grows, weakens, and die. That's why every species has competition of some kind to pass on its DNA. Nikki's here. Welcome. What? You going on? Why do you keep going on these random tangents, Mr. Lee? You had like 3 of them one night. Let's see. Antarctica is the coldest place on Earth. Yeah, see, I'm just kind of like, have you been hacked or something? Because you kind of like, Polly says, beardless but still knowledgeable. Thank you. Welcome to the chat, Polly. Danny, greetings. Let's see who else has dropped in. Danny says, if a soul left a body here, it would freeze and turn to ice. Well, not exactly. Yes, human. I made it out for Chinese food. Would you recommend the cream of some young guy on a Saturday night? Let's see. Sasquatch Wizard and Irondex. Hello, welcome to the chat. And Timmy Boy says, what up, my people? So, some of you probably saw I kind of spurred in the moment, jumped on Squash Talk the other night, and we talked a little bit about, not much about, but a little bit about ghosts and psychedelics and stuff like that. Psychedelics is one of the clues about the true nature of spirit, soul, ghosts. If you get into those circles and you start talking about the different types, you'll run into, DMT, which is in DMT, the regular stuff. When people take this stuff, I mean, you just know it as a hallucinogen, but they call it the spirit molecule. When you take it, if I had to try and explain what's actually happening when you take this stuff, okay, your brain, just try to think which part to say first. Okay, let's start with what you think of as your soul or your spirit or what a ghost is a frequency. It's a frequency, and of course, like anything like that, it has to pass through some kind of medium. Like sound waves through the air. Well, the medium for sound waves is air. Waves in the water. The medium is the water, and the water is not the waves, but there's waves in the water. So there's a frequency to those waves, and so what the ancients knew is that and what our mainstream science still hasn't quite caught up to yet, although they keep coming up with these weird things to explain some of their observations, because their observations aren't making any sense, right? They're trying to say there's actual empty space out there, but now they're saying, well, there's this fabric of space-time, and there's this stuff called quantum foam, and all this crap that they're trying to understand. Like they think there's dark matter because they're detecting what they think is, the effects of gravity. So it must mean there's more mass that they can't see, and they're not understanding what the hell's going on. So anyway, so think of the ether, because the ancients knew of the ether. That there's other words for it, but different people call it different stuff, trying to understand what it is. But the reality is you'll never understand the true nature of the ether itself. But if you understand, it's like an ocean, and energy, frequencies, waves are passing. There's all kinds of frequencies bouncing around, and the medium that they propagate in is the ether. Your soul is a frequency in the ether. Your body is like a radio that picks up the signal and tunes into it. So, Mr. Lee 3PO here, that's what's coming out the speakers, right? But his true nature is not Mr. Lee 3PO. His true nature is that frequency. That makes sense. Hopefully, I don't know if it does make sense to you. But, so this is where we get into the DMT, right? You got the NN-DMT, which they call the spirit molecule, and you got the 5-MeO-DMT, which they call the God molecule. Now, these guys don't really understand the nature of the universe either, but they understand how these substances affect them, right? So the spirit molecule fiddles with the radio a little bit, right? So whereas you're normally walled off, right, where you're not in connection to the rest of the universe necessarily. You're the individual that you are is supposed to function in this reality here, and so it appears that NN-DMT, the spirit molecule, kind of cracks the window. Imagine you're contained in this little house. And normally you're supposed to be walled off. Like you're not supposed to remember what you were before you got attached to this physical body, so that you can function appropriately in this reality. If you remembered what you were, you wouldn't want to be here. You wouldn't. You would be like, this is tedious. It sucks ass. I want out. So it appears the NN-DMT cracks a window, maybe opens a window or a door, and allows you to kind of perceive this, what you call the spiritual, for a time, because your body is this chemical system that's designed to keep you all off. But you took the NN-DMT, the spirit molecule, and it kind of broke down the barrier between you and the spiritual for a little while. 5-MeO-DMT, they call the God molecule, because what happens when you take that stuff, if you take enough, it's the stuff that comes from the toad venom gland, right? You don't lick the toad. That's a myth. But they call it the God molecule because when you take it, it's as if that little house you're in got completely destroyed, and all barriers between you and the rest of the universe basically are broken down. The individual that you think you are right now is completely gone. They call it ego death. You don't remember, you're just not, it's just not you anymore. You remember that you're part of the one, the universal consciousness, or what some people refer to as God. Now, some of this is going to be kind of hard for people to even accept, because they have a certain idea about what happens to them after they die, and they like that idea. It makes them feel good, and this may not make them feel good. Timmy Boy says it's not just a little ad trip, bro. It connects you to different planes of other realities, and it is enlightening for myself anyway. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, a lot of people just think it's hallucinogen. Those things are hallucinogens. No. Your body is a radio for consciousness, for that signal, for that frequency that makes you what you are. And these are like, there isn't like a knob you can grab, but these substances, because it's a chemical system, so these substances act as your little knob. You can fiddle with the dials, and yeah, I think we figured it out, Timmy Boy. Jaguars know to eat the roots of certain trees to trip out for hours. Yeah, you're referring to. I'm losing a word right now. Ayahuasca, or one of the plants that are used to make ayahuasca. Who death? And my mate breaks through the veil of this realm. I become realm itself. Yeah, that's, Meg, that's probably the first thing you've said so far that I can kind of agree with. The ego death is a crazy experience. Yeah. In trying to understand the true nature of our existence, studying about these substances has been one of the things that kind of, entered into my consciousness, over 20 years ago. So I've never used any of these substances, but I'm relying on information from people that have, and the chemistry. Icons here, welcome. So, I mean, if you are an atheist and you need to look into it, because again, to me this is a completely scientific explanation of things, even though I'm using words like soul, spirit, ghost. It's completely scientific. It's, I am taking the magic out again. Sorry for the people that believe in the mystical interpretation. But atheists are off too, because they basically made, they're a religion, whether they want to call themselves a religion or not. It's just a religion that doesn't have a God and can't back that up either, right? And you basically made your holy book the mainstream science. Team Boy says, I was just trying to get high at the time, but quickly realized I had to find out what happened to me because it was so profound. Yeah, you experienced ego death. Timmy Boy, or whatever name you normally go by, was gone. And it probably, when you came back, you were probably a little freaked out, because you are, when you get back here, you think this is who you are, which is necessary to function in this system, but you have to be prepared for the time when you leave, which is why, do you want to come back? Do you want to be truly liberated? Because you can not come back, but that's a level of enlightenment's required. Wisdom is required. And if you haven't achieved that, then what'll happen is a new radio will get latched onto your signal and you'll be back here again. Which some might call reincarnation, but again, you're not going to remember your former life. Although apparently sometimes it happens, and that's not supposed to happen. How that happens, I really can't say. Somehow it happens sometimes. You were depressed about how insignificant you are. Well, you're not insignificant. I mean, I imagine, you realized how expansive reality really is. Like you possibly got a taste of infinity for real. Like we can write the little symbol for infinity, and and talk about it. But in this body, we are very finite, and we don't truly understand the infinite. But when you take that stuff, you got a little taste of the infinite. You became part of you rejoined the rest of the universal consciousness. That's the term I usually use. It's probably not even remotely accurate as far as what we're really talking about. In perspective, you are insignificant, Timmy says. Mr. Lee says you're not insignificant to him. So, I hope that makes sense, because I'm going to read out of this article. It's just a few pages. It's Ken Wheeler trying to explain this stuff. Problem with Ken Wheeler is there's one of these days I should take time to edit this down to just what it actually says, because there's a lot of stuff in there that just doesn't even need to be there. I think, like the wording, like the way you word sentences, and it's kind of a sentence becomes more convoluted than it needs to be, and yeah. Sandra Piper saying hi to the Mank. Tim Boy says, your perspective, I'm not insignificant. So does this spook anybody to think that your soul is something that isn't? It's not. I mean, did you ever really truly understand what they meant by a soul, right? But that you're a signal. It's in the entire universe. It's everywhere out there. Because remember, this is what Ken Wheeler says all the time. He said he refers to your body or your brain as a radio, and it's picking up this signal. So the signal's everywhere, and he talks about how if you take a radio and it's playing a radio station and you smash the radio, did the radio signal go away? No, it's still out there. It's all around. It's just the radio that's gone. Your body is that radio. That one says atheists are usually lazy to figure the truth out, so they just decide to call themselves atheists. Yeah, so probably a lot of them. A lot of them are angry about stuff. Got some issues to deal with. Not all, some. And I think a large number of them, they truly, sense that they're not getting the truth from any side of the issue, and that's the truth. They're not getting the truth from anybody, really. um, but they don't know what the truth is themselves, so they latch on to atheism a lot of the time. Mr. Lee says, it's so scary, man. The Manx says, I had DMT and a 3D geometrical red portal opened up from my TV that was designed like a mainframe grid matrix made of lines linked to triangles, squares. It's a perfect design. It's crazy. And you may have been kind of perceiving the geometrical nature of reality, which, you're over there on Ken Wheeler's channel, and he explains, at least he tries to convey that to people. I don't know that most people ever truly understand, but geometry is key to understanding reality, how the universe functions. He's got that triangle tattooed on his hand for a reason. It's important. Batman says, like the movie Frequency. I liked that movie. Let's see here. Jen says, it's energy. We are all connected in some ways, but different frequencies. Basically what we're saying. So I don't know. Let me pop up this this deal here. He titles it the Metaphysics and Logical Philosophy of Ghosts with Socrates' View on Ghost in the Phaedo. Copyright Kim Wheeler. I'm going to try to edit this as I go because it's crazy. So he says here, completely disregarding the mythos and legends through time immemorial regarding ghosts, the logical philosophical analysis through the lens of abductive reasoning is used and employed by Platonists, especially that of Plotinus, lends a lucid insight into the nature of disembodied will or spirit, chitta, nous, spiritus sanctum. Those were different words for spirit, basically, in different traditions. And like I said, that sentence was just ridiculous. But he's basically, what's happening here is explanation of spirits of ghost. Let's see. Understand how, for what reason. So let's see here. It's going to be very hard to edit this down to something that makes any damn sense. But the following is a concise philosophical analysis of spirits as examined through the most intelligent methodology of metaphysical examination that exists, that of Platonism, to understand how and for what reason the noetic will. Noetic is refers to the mind and intellect, or spirit. In very limited instances, makes Congress with the phenomenal world. Congress with the phenomenal world. What he's saying is ghosts interacting with our reality well enough to be seen. And then, this cosmos aesthetos of living beings. Basically saying ghosts interacting with our reality, where we actually see them, or they sometimes affect physical things. Hauntings are associated with places of mass casualty, such as battlefields or mass murder, far less so to the mere resting places of bodies. According to countless legends. And he quotes Socrates here: the souls wander about until at last, through craving for the corporeal, which has unceasingly pursued them, they are imprisoned once more in the body. So what he's saying here is this person who's haunting, right? This spiritual entity, this is still hanging around because they haven't achieved adequate wisdom. They're just too ignorant, and they use the word ignorant a lot. Ignorance is important to all this, and so Socrates refers to it as imprisoned once more in a body. So basically, they'll get attached to a new body somewhere, and they'll be stuck here again. The majority of phenomenal interjections by the disembodied hauntings are related to the ignorant single person, now deceased, who were extremely incapable of disobjectification, i.e., disassociation with empirical life while alive, cleaving to the phenomenal body and its desires, regrets, unfinished tasks. To illustrate that, other than hospitals, battlefields, and jails, single residency homes wherein an extremely ignorant person has deceased have an extraordinary amount of phenomenal interjections occur. Again, it's just saying this person disobjectification means you're still identifying with the body. Mr. Lee 3PO, when he's gone, he still thinks he's Mr. Lee 3PO, and he hasn't figured out. It's like, it's time to, get out of here. So he's still associating with empirical life, because he says this association with empirical life while he's cleaving to the phenomenal body. Just means you're still attached or cleaving to your physical body. Desires, regrets, unfinished task. Let's see here. Where he says the phenomenal interjections. That's just a ghost appearing in our reality, in the physical realm. And then he quotes Socrates some more. The impure and contaminated soul, by associating itself with the corporeal body, is permeated by congregation and intercourse with the body, will have for the longest time associated and practiced with the body. It's basically saying the same thing. There is a social ethos and dirty connotation around the term ghost itself, which causes the eyes to roll of many a countless intellectually inept human beings, since it harkens to silly movies, other fairy tales, and or fictional materials. To reiterate more succinctly, the very term itself in connotation sits alongside unicorns and leprechauns in the minds of the ignorant many folk, the profane. However, the most wise minds of history's great philosophy and metaphysics have ever so reiterated and spoken about disembodied beings. So, yeah. Which a lot of people assume that, those great minds were just still cleaving to some ridiculous religion, like a lot of atheists do now. But, or a lot of atheists think that. But we're talking about people that actually knew how the universe was functioning way back in the day. Well, some of it. They knew that ghosts were real. They knew spirits were real. Analogously, this absurd position would presume there is no signal upon the breakup of the radio. Now, this is Ken's words again. Which tunes said signal, nor existed before the radio itself. Nobody with half a mind would forward such nonsense. See, this is where he could have left that out. Nobody with half a mind would forward such nonsense. Leave that out, but will gladly and ignorantly deny the signal sans the radio receiver in making myopic conjectures about this loaded term ghost. Yeah. There's just a lot here that could be edited out. There is no soul in the body, nor is there a signal in the radio. No soul in the body, just as there's no signal in the radio. However, this fact is no forwarding of a denial of either the soul or the signal regarding the radio. The two pairs are consubstantial, um, one making it broadcast, the other making life. For any fool to forward the soul yet deny disembodied ghost beings is a self-defeating and unwise worldling. Boy, I wish I had edited this. So, because there's just, a lot, some of it's repeating itself and just unnecessary stuff. Tim Boy says, I think to truly understand what we are talking about, you have to experience it yourself. And even then, there is a frustration in trying to get other people to understand. Well, and there's people that show up, because we're talking. The guy who wrote this, Ken, over on his live stream. People show up there all the time trying to talk to him about psychedelics. He doesn't want anything to do with psychedelics. He says you can achieve what people think they achieve with psychedelics on your own, without the substances. And he's just anti-drug. He doesn't drink. But they keep trying, and they just, if I was him, I'd be a little more annoyed than he acts. Just like I get annoyed if someone tries to get me to drink or to smoke marijuana. I don't want any part of it. I'm sure you think it's wonderful, it's fun. No. Why do people have to try and force people to use the same substances they think they should use, And Ken doesn't want to do that. And if he can achieve these things without the drugs, why do people keep coming in his chat harassing him about using hallucinogens? It's just crazy. But Scotty's here. Hello, Scotty. Welcome. Icon the Great. Let's see here. Catch up in some chat here. Tim Boy says, to make the perfect geography is unbelievable, and the feelings that you understand as language is moving. We want to understand. It's like leveling up and leveling up. I think you meant, did you mean the geometry there? Probably. Yeah, I mean, you're eternal. The signal never ends, Makes me think of the movie Serenity, where that one guy, Mr. Universe, I think they called him. He said you can't stop a signal. There's signals everywhere, and he picked up some information and transmitted signals. He was about surveilling signals and stuff, and you can't stop the signal. How are we all beautiful people? Okay, you just are. You just are, man. Michael says, Mr. Lee, that's selfish. I wanted to be you for a while. Well, in a way, when you both die, you'll both be each other, right? Mr. Lee says, what did you think about 168 Lockbeard? That's what I think. That's what I think right there. I don't know if I want to. I might. I've watched it once. I might watch it again before I make any comment. Apparently, a lot of people are getting quite bent about any kind of criticism of it, and it deserves it. I think everybody's being too damn nice about it. It's totally their call to be that nice about it, you know, a little diplomacy, blah, blah, blah. But yeah. Timmy Boy says, y'all, sorry about all the missed words. I'm just really passionate about this in case you couldn't tell. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It sounds like this is right up your alley if you experimented with the chemistry of fiddling with consciousness. Lee, what did you think? Wizard says, it has astonished me over time how folks get educated enough to have a robust knowledge of science and how the physical science explains the mechanics of how our lives here operate in our reality. Yep. Mr. Lee says, don't be salty, Michael. I can't be good all the time. Chilling brain, just chilling. How you into? Did anyone think Jesus didn't know this? He showed us live here on earth. Timmy Boy says, I have to wait and see the rest. Scotty says, well, thank you. I'm going to start my little crawler later. It's been a few months since I had her running. Apart from that, just a chill day out in the paddock here. Show me sure that people are one soul. Yes. That people call source code or God, aka the electrical universe. You know, you're getting off track a little bit with the electric universe people. They are off, but the rest of that's good. Was like other people was, and I was them. You need to listen to Ken about how the electric universe people are not correct about some stuff. And Ken, you know, you just listen to Ken. He's the one. He's the only person I know of out there who's actually trying to teach this in depth. Okay, you could go. I mean, you can't hardly find any. There's very little video you can find of Eric Dollard. Unfortunately, you know, if there was anything, I mean, there's of course there will never be video found. I don't guess there might be some video out there of Tesla, Nikola Tesla, Heaviside, all these guys who actually were trying to teach people, or they were actually studying the real science, really understood, some things about how the universe really worked. Of course, the government confiscated a lot of Tesla's stuff, and anyway, I don't really know of anyone else that's who's telling the story correctly, at least as prolifically as Ken Wheeler. And if you ask him about Electric Universe, he'll tell you they're not right. I mean, they got some points right, but is your last name Rogan? Asking for a friend. No one should just do hallucinations. I was doing LSD at 15, some say. Wizard says, I think the real subject to discuss isn't how, but rather why are we here? I already saw that one. That's what people say is wrong, Timmy says, with me, but I'm glad I experienced it and continue to be amazed by it. Well, they might say, people who haven't used it, of course not all, because here I am, right? They're polluted with these ideas that these are these horrendous drugs that. And occasionally people has a bad reaction, but as I think it was Joe Rogan said in one of his shows when they were discussing this, that you kind of get out of it what you bring with you. So if you have a bad time, it's because you got some shit to work on. And yeah. But, there's a lot of good things going on with, like, studying the mushrooms and treating PTSD, and of course they know that microdosing increases intellect. Icon says, "Where's Brandy? Wonder if she got lost on my new channel. I don't know. I don't know. She may show up. She may not." Icon says, "Team Boy, if people think there's something wrong with you, it's because they have no clue." Where's Patrick Vaughn and his moccasins? Anthony Patch. Team Boy, there is nothing wrong with you. Team Boy says, "Bro, I'm me, no apologizing, and thanks, Icon." So let me see if I continue with some of. There's some good points in here. It's just sorting it out with all the. Where was I anyway? This is I think this is more Socrates. Is this Socrates here? The spirit is at war with whatever is not spiritual. But for those who have traumatically died before their time, or with much occupying their minds, which, again, he's providing the terms again: spirit, nous, citta, whatever, mind and spirit, it's all the same. And especially for those grossly enthralled with and in identification with their empirical self, this body. These are found to be the progenitors of the lingering and phenomenally experienced ghosts of which are encountered. So you don't want to die in that kind of state. You don't want to be, you don't want to find yourself craving to deal with something here on earth or bound. You want to be able to move on, and that's the problem. That's the problem with with hauntings. Is these people? There's a problem. These people have a problem. This is not a healthy situation. They're not supposed to be here. Something is wrong. So continue here. These ignorant mini folk, the common profane man. They're calling people that. They're calling it ignorant. They're saying ignorant people end up like this, which seems kind of rough, but whatever. They are not at war with the empirical self. So the regular ignorant person isn't at war with the empirical self, according to him, but are so therein attached by measure of their ignorances. They greatly desire the endless perpetuation of this existence, or the activity associated with that self after disembodiment has occurred at either a timely or an untimely endless perpetuation of, it's just Jesus, demise. Sorry, I skipped the lines. Way too wordy, some of this. It doesn't have to be. Whether that undead, he why he's using that term, I don't know. But he has died, but not died to what is now dead, that he was, but is no longer. See, toss all that out. Anyway. Whether the person, the spirit, is attached ignorantly either to their former self or to another or to trauma or place or object is irrelevant. All these are objective unrealities to which these restless spirits are impotent to remove themselves thereof. So they're trapped. Because they don't understand. Talk more about the ignorance of things how ignorance leads. They're ignorant in this state. An ignorant soul is a helpless prisoner chained by hand and foot to the body, compelled to view reality not directly, but only through its prison bars. This is more Socrates here. The corporeal is coarse, heavy, oppressive, earthly, and visible. So the soul, which is tainted by its presence, the presence of the corporeal, this world, the physical world, that soul is weighed down and dragged back into the visible world through fear, some say, and hovers about tombs and graveyards or other places. These shadowy apparitions which have actually been seen are the ghosts of those souls which have not gotten clear away from association/identity with the body, but still remain in some portion of what can be seen. This noetic projection by the metaphysical will or spirit is the continuing methixis or recombination of the disembodied spirit by means and artifice of its ignorance, its self-intercession with and amongst the phenomenal world, which it both cherishes and solely identifies, for to it there is little or nothing else. Damn, these sentences are just way out of control. It basically, that just repeats some of what we just said. They're still attached to the physical world because they haven't achieved, adequate wisdom, and they're ignorant of their situation. The mimetic body or ghost is a mirage of former being, either partially or fully, full body apparition into this world, and is the artifice of spirit which is made seen to others by one or multiple datum. This iconic being is the manifest illusion of the both deceased and ignorant, incapable of transcendence beyond either place, desire of former life itself. Yeah, this could totally be edited down. It's way too... It's insane. Don't start with Patrick Vaughn, says Timmy. So whatever happened with DDoS? Oh, I'll be ready to talk about that again eventually. He's just being the dark creature, that the evil. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, the shit that was happening was just bad, wrong, evil, and I don't know what the I really don't want to get into that right now. I will eventually, and if all attacks have stopped, so. Yeah, I think he may have realized that they were what they were doing, like they were definitely in the wrong. Me criticizing someone for committing a crime like that is not a horrible thing, and they were trying to act like it and harassing me in the process and making physical threats. They were definitely in the wrong, and I have, all the screenshots necessary to make that case. So, Mr. Lee says, did I spell that right? Did you spell what right? Naughty? Team Boy says, I like Patrick. I think he's intelligent, well-spoken, and probably a good guy. That said, I just don't believe his Bigfoot stuff, and Patrick doesn't expect me to believe him. I just take little jabs at him. Prairie Fire, welcome. Says DDoS is right back at YouTube. Yeah, Prairie Fire. It sounds like you may not be up to date with what's been going on. I did a show a few weeks back, an angry show about him, and after that, I was met with threats and harassment online. They claimed I was harassing them, but I just talked on my channel. I wasn't going over to their channel starting shit. But yeah. Jen says some are stuck in a loop. Some can have direct interactions. Some know they are dead. Some don't. Yeah, some of that's addressed a little bit further along in this, so I'll get to in a minute. Brandy's here. She says, fuck D and fuck talking about it. Welcome, Brandy. Let's see here. Prayer says, if DDoS were white, he would have been dismembered and definitely not allowed back on YouTube. Yeah. Well, they even tried calling me a racist for even addressing the issue. So, you know how that is. And I think they found out pretty quickly that playing that card doesn't work with me. I don't give a fuck. I clearly wasn't being racist. So, they can fuck off with that shit. T-Boy says, if the attacks stopped and cool, just wanted to see how you handled it. Well, I was being threatened with lawsuit, and I responded twice in email to that situation, and apparently what I said in the second email shut that down, I think. Or maybe he's out there trying to put together a lawsuit, but I guarantee he will fucking lose, especially with the evidence that I can show. So Michael says, Danny, what made those red wolves feel romantic when you came around? Uncle Bone says, Brandy, fuck everything. Well, thank goodness you stood up, Lockbeard. Yeah. I didn't need that shit because I got plenty of daily shit to worry about without that bullshit. But I'll fight. I will fight. Well, that's a much nicer. Boy, you came in hot. Prairie Fire says, I'll leave it alone. Bless you, Lockbeard, for speaking up. Yeah. I just felt I felt it was necessary, because a lot of people coming in and, they don't understand, like, the kind of person they're dealing with. Besides the fact that he's just pushing this bullshit dogman stuff. Of course, I'm sorry if that offends people, but I think dogman is bullshit. But, yeah. Wizard says, but be careful, very careful with the excitement of knowledge. Deception is the ally of darkness. Ask yourself, why are so many interdimensional beings scratching at the veil? Maybe because we are special. I don't think, well, I don't know, define what you think special is. I mean, certain people's spiritual tradition is designed to elevate them to some kind of entity of grand importance, and I don't think that's the case necessarily, but we are something beyond, like an animal, which is actually addressed in this document. Yeah, I think Timmy Boy's assessment when he encountered ego death is far closer to the reality. Brandy says, Icon, great job on your first live. Yeah, Icon, congratulations. Team Boy says, so like a boss is how you handled it. Cool. I'd like to think so. Brandy says, everyone go sub icon the great. Good. See you later. See you, Mr. Lee. Daily shit, yes. The threats and bluffing won't be tolerated anymore. Yeah. And it's one of the things, like hopefully, I hopefully it helps other people to face the threats and intimidation that they attempt when they see that I've done it. And I don't know, I just I don't want anyone else to get caught up in my situation, as far as addressing it, but I hope it helps others who have suffered the fear and intimidation and threats, and who knows, if the bullshit continues, we all might find ourselves in a class action lawsuit one of these days, dealing with these criminals, because I'm starting to think that we're dealing with more than one criminal here. Thank you, Brandy. Hope it was somewhat enjoyable. That's a good thing. That mom. Brandy says, "Oh, girl, you're making me blush." Hilarious. Check it out. Bigfoot Anons, Special Swamps. I'm not sure what that means, but very good to see Bat Mom. Love how Dark Waters tried saying that he did his time. No one brings up the other girls, as well as saying he apologized. He apologized to a B story he's made up. Yeah. I had to drink water. What type of channel are you doing, Icon? Caught the Megadeth. Yes, Lockbeard. I'm not sure which part you're referring to. I commend you, Icon, for just drinking that shit black. Thank you. How's your drinking voyage this evening, night, Mr. Lee? Don't really have a theme, just hang out to BS and have a good time. Brandy says, Icon, you look like my brother. It's crazy. Prayer first says, absolute Lockbeard. There's a whole cabal of them. Just ask Viconda. Yeah, they said that too. And in the process of their threats, they said, yeah, ask Viconda. They said that. Yeah. Motherfuckers. I have screenshot of all that shit, and I didn't take all the screenshots. I had, had some help with some of that. Because you're not the only ones with some backup. Damn it. Mr. Lee says bullshit will always continue, Lockbeard. Yeah. Did you check out the surf playlist? That is not your thing. Let's see. Yes, tractors going well so far, Brandy. I'm slow. Don't judge. The bullshit will absolutely always continue. Yeah. Yeah. I just haven't got to it yet I can, but it's cool to me. Okay, so let me continue in this. I definitely want to try and get through this stupid thing, despite the crazy wording of everything. I think a lot of this is still just further elaborating on why these souls get stuck here, because they're stuck here. They're ignorant of what's going on. So he says here, The link between these two worlds, the spatial and the counterspatial. Okay, because they're, spatial is where we're at. Counterspatial is where what we call the spiritual is at, right? Or the noetos and esthetos empirical is, of course, identity, false, or agnosis, or the light of will, nous, spirit, which is turned towards the other than itself. See, I mean, that's ridiculous, convoluted, but there it is. That this world alone is full with empirical life, with macrocosmic to microcosmic, which is nothing more than a harmony of spirit and matter. It would therefore abductively and logically be consistent that just as lifeless matter itself must and does exist in standalone, infinite, ever the more so too must spirit exist in standalone, without being in consubstantial congress, which is, a body and a spirit functioning together, right? With any physical body, which we, the living, deem alike another living creature or being. So basically saying that a physical, some things that are physical don't necessarily have spirit to them, and some things that are spiritual don't necessarily aren't necessarily consubstantial with something physical. Only the ignorant and atheistic have so deemed the greatest or complete measure of totality to mere matter. But metaphysicians, and now too modern physicists, demonstrate that matter is most likely no more than a bundling of wave fronts of something else antecedent to matter itself, a mere attribute to a metaphysical subject. The physical emerges from the non-physical, kind of what that means. Platonists, Platonists, namely Plotinus, have abducted that matter is nothing more than the byproduct of emanation by the absolute, a temporal manifestation of the good. There's reference of ignorance itself being the definition of evil in some places. So it's a weird concept for some people, I think, but it resonates with me. Brandy says, me, I did all the work. You can say it, Lockbeard. Okay. Brandy says, Icon, you did delete my comment about not getting notified up for your stream. Jen says, did we lose Polly, Sandra, and Danny? Maybe. Probably getting too deep with some of this with some of this stuff. But this document explains ghost. It's just trying to decipher all the because like I said, he some shit that he's got in there he doesn't even need. You could cut out half or 3/4 of some of these sentences and actually say what it says in far fewer words that the layman could actually decipher without the constantly referring back to the ancient words like nous and chita and all those words. Like, those are just ancient words that kind of means they have a meaning in the English language, although the translations are a little bit wonky, but it's good enough to kind of explain without actually using those words, because you don't know what cheetah is, you don't know what noose is unless he explains it, and he does kind of, but we don't need that, right? We need English. Want to get the heavy sound alone first, get them smoking and chilling music. Brandy says, Icon, I was also impressed with your ability to keep up with the chat. That's not easy. Don't track Icon. I don't know what happened. I clicked on it and it had it up and it disappeared. Wonder if I didn't have to approve it. Didn't see anything wrong with what you said. You might have accidentally deleted it. I've done that before. Michael says, what do you mean I don't believe in God? I talk to him every day. Timmy Boy says, it might explain ghosts, but it confuses me completely. Yeah, I'm trying to decipher it. I mean, I pretty much have. The physical body is just it's a radio. The soul is a frequency, and you're just tuned into the frequency. What you are is really the frequency, unless you are identifying too heavily with the physical body. And if you do that, you're going to be screwed. If you die, you're going to, it's like I saw a video. Ken did a video some time ago where he's talking about if you die in a state of not being, you haven't achieved enough wisdom, you're too ignorant, basically too ignorant, and you're too attached to the physical. So when you die, you're still an entity. It's hard to think of a frequency as an entity, but it is. He says you'll be like grasping for, like, where's my body? Where's my body? And then you'll grab onto a new body, is basically how he put it. So you don't want to do that. You want to try and understand and realize that you need to be less attached to this piece of meat that you're in, because your true eternal self is a frequency, which is weird as hell. It's hard because we're used to see. I think there is a conspiracy of sorts at going on in our world, that where you have people who really, they want us to focus on this, so that we can't achieve the level of enlightenment and wisdom needed to free ourselves when we die, when our physical body dies. Jen says, Ken, from this example, overly wordy. Yeah, he's overly wordy. He definitely is that, and he seemed. But look, the dude knows. I don't even know how many languages he knows, and he studied these all these ancient writings. Like people who think they know what Buddhism is, they don't know. They need to go watch Ken's videos about Buddhism. People who think they understand how the universe actually functions, but they need to see him, and because he's the only person I know of that's aggressively. I mean, I'd say he's aggressively trying to teach people how it actually all works. He's the only person I know of. You can get parts of it from, materials left over from Tesla and Heaviside, stuff from Eric Dollar and stuff like that, but you're not really going to get the full, like, it's almost like Ken is the person who has brought it all together finally. And maybe, if enough people, figure that out, it would be a dawn of a new age for humanity. Sandra's just lurking. Mr. Lee says rubbish. Okay, Icon says wordy. Oh boy, Ken's got some PDFs out there that will give you couch lock for a weekend. Yeah. So I'll pass on that. Yeah. I mean, it's probably not for everybody, but I mean, we're just talking about ghosts, like trying to understand what ghosts are. I'll get to the cold part here in a little bit. Because it's interesting. You won't hear this from any of the paranormal investigators. They all come, they're absorbing energy or some bullshit. They're thinking that this is a physical entity that's it's not absorbing energy from anything in our reality. It's not. It's. I'll get to that. So is it 7 icon? Yeah. He's okay. Mr. Lee says. Brandy says Ken is a man of many talents. Yeah, he is. He don't know everything, but but he knows these certain subjects really, really well. Really helped bring some stuff together because I was having some because like Mank brings up the Electric Universe people, and they're kind of enticing because there's certain things they seem to address, but answering some of the questions that mainstream science fails, but still it was at a loss. And somehow I ran across some of Ken's material one day, and luckily I saw someone who was actually explaining this shit correctly to my estimation, and helped fill in some blanks in ways that made sense, where no mainstream scientist has been able to do that. The Electric Universe people have not been able to fill in the complete picture. Timmy Boy says it sounds like just another religion. Well, in a way, I mean, you could call it that. Look, I'm just looking at like what actually makes logical sense based on what we know. You can make a religion out of everything. I mean, atheists have made a religion out of science, for fuck's sake, So, but that's why I try to stress that this isn't a religion. You can treat it as such if you like, if that is works for you, I guess. But it's just trying to understand how the universe actually functions. Nemo says Ken seems to be an expert in Eastern mysticism, but that does not make him an expert in chemistry, physics, astronomy, etc. Some of you folks seem to be falling into a cult-like mentality with Ken. I mean, you could say that, but I challenge Ken all the time on shit. I mean, anyone that's been watching over the last years knows, like I've butted heads with him on some shit. Because he's not an expert in everything. You're absolutely correct. But he is an expert on this stuff right here, by far. Like I said, the only physical being is the meat bag animated by the ether. Nemo says anyone that starts to talk about what happens after you die is talking nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Why, Nemo? Brandy says I was referring to his work with leather. Yeah. Well, he's a big advocate for having, multiple streams of income, so that you're able to survive difficult times coming. Because he's been doing a lot of videos lately because there's a lot of indications that we're having rise of basically Nazism again in the world. And in some countries, it's almost a full rollout right now. Not quite, but they're bucking up to it because they managed to dehumanize people who won't cooperate and get jabbed. That's what they did to the Jews, and that's what they're doing to the unjabbed now. They're dehumanizing them. They got our fellow citizens, actually cheering as the government takes away our liberties because we don't want to be jabbed. We don't want to cooperate with this complete false plague that they have perpetrated upon us, that they lied to us about, and they're using this as a way to have an excuse, and they have support from part of the population to start rounding people up. And it's already started happening a little bit. Any Jewish survivor could probably tell you the parallels that they're seeing here. Not a lot of them around anymore, obviously, but yeah. Anyway, he's a big advocate for having multiple talents, so you can be better able to survive bad times. Brandy says, "I feel like I haven't seen all of you in forever." Hello, shalom, namaste, and all that jazz. Brandy says, "I miss Ruthless. We feel abandoned by you." He's hiding in my email somewhere, says Icon. You can sub to his channel. Icon has the link. Well, tell him to find me. Michael says, just sadly kicking my can down the street saying, "Where's Brandy?" His Ruth has gone again. Don't catch too many of 5 shows these days. Sub, shit, I forgot. Thanks, Uncle Dave, and ghosting my mama. Uncle Bone says, I've been watching his stuff today. I like the guy. Hiveless blocked him. Icon says, once again, they're revenging on us like bad Taco Bell. Yeah. They'll always rear their ugly head, I think, every so often in history. Randy says, after you block Hiveless on Facebook, it's a brotherly love quarrel. They were blocking last night. Gasoline on a fire, those two. Life can be a bitch. I'll find Michael Y. Always around. They need to fucking get it over with. Yeah. Tim Boy says, until we know the meaning of life and prove it, people will create their own meaning and try to like hell to convince others. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why, like, I don't know why it is like it is. Like, why is it that this spiritual and the physical, I mean, if a spiritual entity can exist outside of the physical, why does it ever, become consubstantial with the physical? It's like, do we choose this? Are we crazy for doing that? I'll come back and let y'all know what's up. Laughing along with the comments. So, let's see here. The noetic, which is referring to the intelligence, the mind, might find and make congress with matter in the form of empirical, consubstantial, and temporal being. Temporal refers to, attached to time, or, so too will be the case, albeit the rare occurrence, that spirits make mimetic intercession into and with our world. Had to skip over a whole bunch of crap there that we didn't need. Intercession into our world in many fashions, some of which are readily apparent through the profane and extremely limited spectrum senses of human beings. So he's talking about here because our senses only perceive so much, and so when a ghost is perceptible to us, that's because that spiritual entity, that soul, is interceding into our reality because it's got some kind of attachment. It needs to let go of that attachment, but it's ignorant of that. It doesn't understand. logically and rightly so, by implementation of an extension of our limited senses, near infrared and out of human range audio, electrostatic, magnetic field, and video electronics have opened wide, 100-fold, the interest and uncovering of these the spirit phenomena. Hey, that's the name of the show, or or intercessions. They're talking about, like, the technology we have, that we can actually start to detect things beyond our normal senses here. That's all he's saying here. We have technologies now that are allowing us to perceive spirits. By resulting in, through usage of this instrumentation, a far greater spectrum or bandwidth of data as pertains to spirits has been made readily available for examination. Like, we can actually detect these things now with technology. People have been declaring since about the early 1900s that as humans become more technologically sophisticated, the premise that ghosts would vanish into oblivion of an enlightened people. But the opposite has become the case because of this technology. We're actually going in the other direction. We're learning that spirits are very real and we can detect them now. Not very well, but we're getting there. What we now have before is a flood of proliferated broad spectrum equipment which sees and records far above and below visible spectrum EMR, and the worlds of existence has been so broadened with such a multitudinous and inexpensive amount of precision equipment, transspectral recording devices, and the like, that the realm of disembodied beings has not been dismissed, but rather blown wide open. Again, I'm having to edit out a bunch of wordy crap, but it's the same. We got the technology, we can start to detect things now. He's talking here about ancient word, monomayakaya, mind made body is what it means. Also meaning artificial creation of mind, as speaking of the metaphysical chitta, the spirit, which is, by manner of its potential or intercession into our phenomenal world, capable of manifestation, that he or she still either considers itself a physical being or so strongly desires that the spirit is made manifest in one or several modalities, such that living beings make notice of the same by visual, auditory, or other sensory or transsensory datum. So we're able to see them. They're interacting with us because they think they're still alive. They're very confused. Or they want to be. They want to hold on to something here. This is more quote from Socrates. Because using the body implies using the senses, when the spirit is drawn away by the body at birth into the realm of the variable and loses its way and becomes confused and dizzy as though it were befuddled. These are, I don't know, needs to be translated because he's talking like Socrates, right? Highlighted this problem as brought forward by Socrates. Intercourse by the spirit with the temporal body further enthralls the will or the spirit into objectification, ignorance, nescience, spiritual amnesia. That, as it were, the puppet master or spirit has only identity with the mimesis or mirage of spirit, the puppet itself. Again, they don't know, they don't understand. Um, Literal ignorance of the situation. Uh, so, those many or few who are so enthralled with this jointed and temporal puppet, as echoed by the ancient philosopher, are still, by metaphysical means, projecting the spirit into the phenomenal world long after the strings or life of that puppet has been cut at the time of death. Again, it's just really just over reiterating much of what's already been said. Need to get to the good part here. Well, the part that the title of this stream is about, really. But I thought it was important to actually talk about what a spirit actually is. Brandy says, not yet. She's sick, I heard. I plan to message her shortly, check in. Talking about the ongoings over at Hiveless. What's our purpose? Why are we here? I'm not really sure, Timmy. I think we'll figure it out when we go with the others, when we disconnect from the physical. But it's just an alien concept to us. To when you had ego death, you were like, you came back here, and you're like, what the hell? You can't process it, which is probably why you need to forget. Like, you forget, you don't remember anything from before you became this, when you became consubstantial with this physical body you have right now. I told CB to join your group. I don't know if she has yet. But get her side too. At 9, I think it's 8 o'clock my time. Yeah, I've been trying to shut down before he starts. It's a double-edged sword, unfortunately. Send a friend request. She said she'd in Mog's chat. Flew the bird in honor of Ruthless. Let's see, I didn't get to see the stream before he took it down. Why are you skipping my comments, sir? There's just so many, but yeah, y'all are just talking about Hiveless stuff, so I don't know, Icon. I don't know. Let me try. I want to kind of talk about the animals a little bit, and then which is where we're at now. The word animals literally means has a soul. So it can be concluded that since animals have little to no self-identification, neither grieve over themselves or fellow kind. That's not always the case, but he's talking about slaughterhouses where hundreds of animals meet brutal fates. There has not been, to any record, a place of noetic or spiritual intercession by the disembodied deceased of those former living creatures who, with meager rational consciousness, lack the premise whereby they grieve their own bodily fates. While true that beasts fight with great ferocity for their lives, with claw and fang, this impulsive reaction is merely an ingrained effect of the being itself, rather than a love of self which makes one fight for life and its accessories, such as is seen with the complex being of human beings. So, can you imagine if the ghost of cows were haunting slaughterhouses? Like, it doesn't happen. It's because apparently humans in we are special in a sense, but the problem is that also has issues where we we're far more likely to find ourselves in a situation where we're trapped here and haunting a place. Now, I think it can occur sometimes with animals, but it's not the norm. It's not as normal a situation as humans experience. Those phenomena which have a mere repetition of intercessions. So the ghost just keeps appearing and doing the same thing. Akin to a record skipping over a same track over and over is due to the being, which is either wholly or willfully ignorant of either living beings, and also the flux and material surroundings. They can't tell that things are changing. They don't know you're there. That they don't know that there's passages of time, renovations. It says, or the general change in the topos, the place of the deceased who cleaves to that specific location, either due to a traumatic death in that location, ignorant attachment to said location, or otherwise. He goes on to talk about the social deceased to interact with living beings, also responds through whatever capacity. We can make no greater distinction between these two varieties of hauntings than we make of the social and unsocial living who possess different ignorant attachments to and in life, being it of material, place, or desire, or of the living, specific or unspecific. It's just talking about the different types of attachments that can cause a spirit to still be here. So next he goes on that many instances of activity surrounding the restless deceased is witnessed to increase or worsen as a result of those or many who successfully or purposely interact with these spirits by means of either two-way communication through instrumentation, of question and answer devices, video, audio recorders, Ouija boards. It follows without question that the ignorant dead in many instances suffer to interact with the living, like a lonely and in this case literally invisible child is kept at length from interacting with others, suffering all the while. To extension that we know, the extremely ignorant are synonymous with evil, therefore bestial. These paranormal investigators are instigators who quite literally feed the beasts in so extensively and repetitively, desiring and making contact with the disembodied soul. So, I mean, basically, what the investigators are doing, the paranormal investigators, is bad. You're causing suffering. By elimination of the wise or noble of spirit who have passed at time of death, are not counted amongst those who linger and intercede into the phenomenal world, those whom we deem ghosts. As such, in most cases, those investigators who make contact with or who are disturbed by spirits, unless they be the spirits of children who are innocently ignorant, are in most instances dealing with highly unsavory beings of profound and vile standing. So you don't want to be doing the Ouija board stuff, all right? Because you're not interacting with something good, typically, and you're also causing suffering. One cannot and does not, in any instance, make contact with any of these dead, and are simultaneously dealing with and corresponding with any being of nobility, wisdom, intelligence who deserves respect. He's basically reiterating that you're not dealing with something good. In like conclusion, it can be said without question that paranormal investigators are interacting with both the insane and criminally minded to some degree. Gosh, he's reiterating himself again. To desire or to communicate with these disembodied beings is no different than to socialize and bring oneself into prolonged proximity to the evil and deranged on death row of a supermax. No good can come of it. So the cooling zones, finally, we're to the cooling zones. Directly, either moving or stationary, directly associated with ghost, as recorded and witnessed by countless investigators, of which most have incorrectly concluded that this phenomenon is ghost pulling energy from warm living beings or surroundings, but this is illogical. This phenomenon requires one to understand the conjugate principles of a cathode and anode. Again, those electric universe people are going to show up for this, but they need to just chill. And its corresponding phenomena in tubes and batteries, etc. It is the case that as the cathode heats, the anode cools. Discharge and charge. You can demonstrate this to yourself with a rubber band. I'll skip that. But you can. It's a little cool experiment you can do. The cooling or charge, or the dissipation of force and the motion and a move of energy towards counter space, the ether or whatever you want to call it. Those living beings who record with digital thermometers these cold spots, both stationary and moving, are encountering a counter-spatial anode of a disembodied being who exists in the dielectric dimension of counter space. This concentric field of these beings are counter-torsional ether inductance, literally of the spirit, and by the spirit itself a subjective ether anode. Very wordy, I know, but it's basically a dielectric thing. It's something you can see in experiment. It's the same thing. These beings are not drawing or pulling energy from the environment or from warm living beings. That's it. I mean, it's not. There's not a lot to say about it. It's an anode. It's going to cool. So, yeah. So I think the remaining few paragraphs here is, just a lengthy closing of what he's talking about. But so, I don't know. I mean, that may not be satisfactory to a lot of people as far as explaining what ghosts are, why they cool things, why they get stuck here. But there it is. And you can read that yourself. If you go over on Ken's channel, the link to it's under one of the videos where he's talking about ghosts. He's talked about ghosts in a number of different videos. Metaphysics and all that stuff. If you feel like going down that rabbit hole and trying to understand what we really are, what spirits really are, what ghosts really are, and why they haunt and why they cool things. Here to be a smartass tonight. What the hell do we care? Jen says, we are here to mess things up. We do a damn fine job. Animal shelters, yeah. Can you imagine if they were like, if animals could, if it, because if animals could become as bound to their physical identity as humans can, like we are so we're so vulnerable to that situation where we identify as this person here, and that could cause a haunting. You want to be able to disobjectify. Well, I mean, if it works for you. I mean, technically, like the holographic theory of the universe is not entirely incorrect. When you look at this science, it's kind of correct. Maybe not exactly how the holographic people explain their idea, but taking both. Miss Lee says, "Go and do some mushrooms and put your bare feet in the earth." Earthling, no, I'm not. And do loads of weed too. Blue pill for Saturday nights. This guy says, "I can see you popping blue pills for fun, Haywood. It makes sense. They are unclean spirits." Yeah, after going through that, I kind of wish I had just edited it down because, like you saw, there was one paragraph where all 5 sentences in the paragraph were extremely wordy in themselves, and they all could have been condensed into like one shorter sentence. All 5 of them into one sentence. Barry Browning's here. Welcome. No, 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 not all, not all. Like he mentioned, the children, being innocently ignorant. Um, they just don't know, and I'm sure adults can be the same. Sometimes they're innocently ignorant, but even in that case, if you're trying to communicate with them with a Ouija board or something, you're not helping them, you're harming them. Well, I mean, you can detect them, or you talked about the actual, you talking about the anode cathode thing. Kind of had to talk to Ken about that one because you're talking about trying to prove something in the physical world that's metaphysical. Yeah, I do actually. Um, he's actually sleeping uh, about 150 feet that direction from me. uh, in a here in this town, actually, at a graveyard. I think it was what was definitely in the graveyard. Uh, he saw it was in daylight too. A person on a bike. It was a ghost on a bike. Jen says, "Brandy, that's basically the only lyrics of that song." How are you, Nana? Papa Craig's here. Welcome. Brandy says, if I can dig up this pic I have on my old digital, everyone will believe in ghosts. Yeah, you can't have double exposure on digital. Brandy says, close your eyes, give me your hand. Do you feel my heart beating? Do you understand? Do you feel the same? I'm only dreaming. Am I only dreaming? Oh, that's Madonna, isn't it? Yeah, just like a prayer. Walk with an erection. I don't think that's the. I'm not sure. Icon. Papa says I've decided to just the king salmon. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the whole point. I mean, I was saying, the whole point of it, is that yeah, I think ghosts are real and that they do interact with our reality. And that's what this document here is describing why it actually happens. How does this explain ghosts? It's just theory until it's reproduced and proven. Well, I mean, no, there's really no. The only other explanations out there are just, some entity exists that created, um, spirits, and it's just a purely magical thing. Whereas in field theory, you once you learn enough about field theory, um, you learn about, uh, the evidence is like mainstream science always, well, doesn't always, but has misinterpreted some of their observations that indicate the existence of the ether. And, no one was, very few people were listening when Tesla said that light is basically the same is sound waves in the ether. Where mainstream science seems to think that light can propagate through nothing, and that's just not the case. So, all I can say is it comes. You'll see if you understand like field theory. You understand how all the evidence that indicates the ether is real, and why mainstream science is wrong about some of these things. Like the double slit experiment just really got me. It's like, so let me get this straight. You guys come up with two possible. You had two possible results that you thought of for the experiment, and the experiment should have produced just one of those. If one of those suppositions were correct, then it should have just produced one of those. But it didn't. Depending on observation or non-observation, you got a particle and wave. Like, well, it can't be both. It absolutely can't be both. That just don't even make any damn sense. And so instead of going back to the drawing board and saying, look, maybe one of our suppositions was incorrect because we're getting results that indicate both. Maybe our experiment was flawed because we were assuming it had to be one of these two options. They didn't do that. They just threw their hands up and said, it must be both. Well, no, it can't be both. I mean, for starters, you're trying to say something is a wave when it can't be a wave. It's like Ken always says. He says a wave is what something does. It isn't what something is. You know, the whole deal where he does this. He says, "What's this?" He's doing two voices that someone's responding to him. He's like, "What's this?" A wave. He's like, "No, it's my fucking hand." So I don't know. I can't do this all justice. I mean, there's a lot to digest. Just talk about ghosts. Does that count? Peace standing up? I don't know. I'm saying no one shows that the fuck I'm on about. I guess what it's doing is being Sasquatch or part human, part question mark. Where is their place in this? Where's Sasquatch place in it? I don't know. I think Sasquatch are straight up human. That whole idea that they're part this and part that, that's just some claim that somebody made. Even if you believed the Ketchum DNA thing, that doesn't prove they're part something else at all. So, you know, it wouldn't even, I mean, that don't even make any damn sense, but it sounded great to a lot of people and they latched onto it, you know, but there's questions about the validity. You know, for one, it's just like Timmy says, you know, he needs reproducible results. And so if assuming Sasquatch is real and the what I maintain is if they are real, they are definitely Homo sapiens. They're human, and as such, they're going to be subject to the same spiritual conundrum that we are in. If they cannot disobjectify at death, they could become they could be stuck here as a haunting, as a ghost. But I suspect that they may not be as vulnerable to that situation as we are, because look at us. We are extremely materialistic people. They, on the other hand, aren't. At least there's no evidence that they are. They don't, you know, they don't produce a bunch of crap. They don't gather. They don't have. I mean, the shit. We have homes full of shit, and we have storage buildings full of shit, and we're just so materialistic. It's no wonder that we have people that die and end up as a haunting spirit. They have attachments to this physical bullshit. I would suspect that Sasquatch would not be near as subject to that situation as we are, but they may still, you know, on occasion. So, you know, some sightings where some weird shit happened, maybe that person was really seeing a Sasquatch ghost. You know, but it's hard to know that for sure. Some more song lyrics from Brandy. The icons like WTF. Don't Google that shit either. Brandy says. Tim Boy says, I guess it's just over my head. This doesn't mean much to me, but I enjoy the chat and show. I'm glad you do, Timmy. I don't know. it's just it kind of this explanation again, like it's not in layman's terms. I tried to put a lot of it in the layman's terms, you know, because Ken just doesn't talk like that. And even if you watch like Dollard, you know, some of the crazy shit Dollar saying, yeah, most people are like, you know, if they drop the word like counter space, well, people don't know what the fuck that is. They think it's something in their kitchen. uh, but you know, there's kind of the prerequisite for understanding field theory and being able to let go of all the Einstein bullshit and quantum physics and all that shit, because it's bullshit. It's like there's so many indications that it's bullshit, but people, you know, because most people don't study this stuff, they got other shit to do. They got their own fields of study, and it's kind of a self-feeding monster. There's a lot of egos at play. There's a lot of money involved, like, you know, those fucking particle colliders and shit, man. There's billions of dollars being sunk into that. A scientist is going to say, yeah, we saw something that we think indicates a new particle has been discovered, except there's no damn particles. There's no damn particles. They haven't proven shit, but they gotta make it look like they're making some kind of progress. Now, did they see some indications of something? Yes, kind of like the test for the 2020 fraud virus. That test isn't shows indications of something. It does not actually prove that virus is there. It doesn't. It fucking doesn't. People fell for it because they're like, this is a test for the C virus. That test could indicate a lot of different conditions. And the same thing for the things they detect in the particle colliders. Those indications could be interpreted, you know, however they want, you know, and, you know, the government's going to be like, oh, this sounds great. You know, what's this going to do for us? And the scientists can throw a bunch of shit out there and say, oh, it's going to do this and this. We're going to money. Do we get the funding? And then, you know, they want that money, so they're going to make up whatever bullshit they can. They have not, period, they have not proven that even a fucking electron is a particle. They haven't proven that shit. They teach it to people as if it's a proven fact. Is there something going on there? Yes. Field theory will explain it if you go down that rabbit hole. But no, it's not a particle. It's not a damn particle. Light's not a particle either. I mean, I guess technically it can become such. Well, certain types can, if you understand, you know, that what's matter, right? What is matter? Matter is like extremely high energy light. It's the same shit. It's all the same shit. Everything's fields when it comes down to it. Everything's a field. But, you know, this is too much to, like, there are, I don't know, thousands of videos on Ken's channel. Like, I don't know, 6,000 plus videos at this point. And maybe a third or more of those involves field theory. He's got a basically kind of a textbook called The Missing Secrets of Magnetism, where he talks about, you know, explains magnetism. Mainstream science can't explain magnetism, and and then when they start talking about virtual fucking photons or some, it's crazy. Field theory is where it's at. It's a lot to, like, we're not going to remotely scratch the surface on, you know, we're just talking about ghosts right now. We need to keep it on the ghosts because I don't know how to convey this stuff without sending people over there to actually learn filter if they want to really understand the nuts and bolts of how the universe really functions. That's where it's all explained. It's just, you know, whether you want to dive that far down the rabbit hole or not, I guess. Sounds about right. I kind of don't think I had any before that. How come it be the only place that has life? I don't think that's the case. I think there's life elsewhere. I mean, we haven't detected it yet, but it's pretty much got to be there. You'll be back for the next podcast. That ain't logical. How can we be the only bipedal beings in this realm? We know more about oceanography than we do about our forest. Yeah, well, I can see how we can be. It's possible we're the only bipedal species, but I consider Sasquatch the same species as us. I think that the what we know or what we know indicates they are the same species. But looking at them morphologically, and if tales of crossbreeding are true, that's a smoking gun. If we can prove that, if there's been crossbreeding, well, you can't breed with something that's a different species. It just ain't a thing. That's the definition of a species. You know, something like a liger. Well, that's where you're getting on the edge of things, right? Where you have two species that are they're just different enough that we should call them separate species, but they're still not quite differentiated enough that they can't produce some kind of offspring. But that offspring isn't a proper mix of the two, right? Because it ends up being way too big. And so it isn't a proper mix. So, but that's the definition of a species. So, but yeah. I think they're animal, but entertainer. What I miss, it was, I don't know, a lot of boring shit. I was kind of addressing Ghost tonight and reading a document written by a guy that talks completely non-layman. And I tried to translate a lot of it, but for people to accept what I was saying requires that they understand field theory. And I can't remotely tackle that in one live stream. And I'm not even going to try. That subject is covered on Kim Wheeler's channel, and people who want to understand should go there. It's already been done. I'm not going to try and reproduce it here, and I'm certainly not the best person to do it anyway. But the document I went through was explaining, what ghosts are, why they get stuck here, why they make things cold, and why slaughterhouses aren't full of ghost animals and stuff like that. The extra words is I know. All the extra words is what I know in the shorter version, basically. But I've been around in a long time, so maybe it's just self-knowledge. Yeah. Some people kind of know, you know. Brandy, says, oh, this is more song lyrics. Feel alright. Parties on West Side. And Tin Boy says, Pat's been a long night. I think Tin Boy's been having a hard time. Because I can't really, he's asking questions that I can't really, it's just too much to address. Papa Craig says, just wolfed down my salmon and the ducks are down. Brandy says, Scotty, how old are you, if you don't mind my asking? She never say hi in your chat, man. What's up? Well, Pat. Middle-aged pup. Prairie Fire says, hello, Papa. I trust the salmon was good. Farting did your do, brains. I ain't too far ahead of your brains. Enjoy it while it lasts. Papa Craig says it was fresh troll caught king salmon and Nana cooked it perfect. Prairie Fire. Awesome. Icon says time does not exist. Brains, burn your calendar. You'll feel better. Yeah. Dang, I wanted to hear what your take on the Sasquatch was, but all I see is the chat zipping by and can't hear anything. You can't hear anything. You should be able to hear me. Scotty says, I have to be honest, I would rather encounter a Sabe any day than wind up on Dave Pilates' missing 411 list. Huh. Sweet Lord, modern. Icon says, brains. I said he was going to throw all his clocks in the dustbin. I'm trying to catch up in chat here. Wizard says I'm back and it's okay now. It was my phone. Awesome. Yeah, I try. Gonna poke my head into YouTube for a second and see, because somebody said Central Florida Bigfoot was planning on coming on tonight. I don't want to step all over. Yep. Let me see here.
Have a piece of something like that.
Yep, he is going over there, so yep, Central Florida Bigfoot's on. So I'm gonna shut her down. I don't know. Hopefully gave a satisfactory answer to some of the ghost stuff for people. Um, it's it's wild. I know. I mean, you may have never heard this stuff described this way because it's just not commonly known. But you know, hopefully it helps like people who are struggling with the existing ideas that they see out there. So yeah, go over and check out Central Florida Bigfoot. He's already been going about 26 minutes now. Maybe fly a pirate flag. Let's rate him. And I thank you all for dropping by and putting up with that. I know it was a little bit, you know, it was wordy. It was damn wordy, I know. But hopefully we'll see you next time, and see you over at CFB.